this master plan looks out 20 years, that we're able to capture those ideas, and before the end of the 20 years, we're able to bring those to the airport and make this airport more closely aligned with what the community expects and desires from its airport. To kind of do a quick inventory of what exists here at the airport. We've got the curbside parking, which is a little bit unique because you back into that stall, which is probably not the greatest system. The other things include a short-term lot that's very close to the terminal building. We're really fortunate that we still have that really close-in parking and that TSA has given us some latitude to keep that open. We also have a long-term lot that's a few more steps, but certainly closer than almost any other airport I've ever been to. Even our long-term lot is pretty close to the facility, and people can get inside and shelter pretty quickly. We've got a ground transportation lot that's gated off and only allows those that have electronic access to do that. And it gets very congested at peak times because there's cabs in there, there's all the ground transportation providers. We're lucky that about 80% of the lodging properties in the community offer complimentary transportation to and from the airport in vans. It's another mass transit component that's very positive, I think, and reflects well on the community. We've got an employee lot, so the folks that need to get here other than by bus, there's a place for them to park, and it's good to be able to get to the ticket counter and find an employee there when you really need one. And so that's an important component. We have rental car ready lots where the cars that are ready for rent or people have reserved. Those stalls are really small. Anybody who's been out there knows that they're very tight. I know that there's interest in the community to minimize rental cars, and we encourage and support that position. But there are certain customers who have a specific need for a rental car, and we want that experience to be a good one for them as well. So those are kind of the overall big pieces of what we have at the airport for transportation, and specifically customer transportation. Well, we've made our way outside onto the curb front in front of the terminal building. And I frequently get asked, why do we park the cars the way we do with this kind of back-end diagonal? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is the safety. It allows the bags and the passengers to go directly to the curb without having to mix with other vehicular traffic. But in an ideal situation, we'd have a lot more run of curb front that would allow us to park more like you'd see from other airports, where the cars pull in and are parallel to the curb and allow folks to do their business and get their bags out and into the terminal building. But because we've got such a short curb front, we have to park cars this way so we can account for as many cars as we can. The parking revenue that folks may pay when they come into the airport or depart the airport. Number one, first hour is free. I always remind folks of that. That's another alternative when you're doing a meet and greet or dropping friends or family off. But the revenue that's collected from all of that is a huge component about how we've been able to keep our rates and charges to the airlines down, which we think makes a difference in what people expect to pay in airfares and other things like that. And I've been asked a number of times in the community about, can you do free parking? Well, that would be great. Unfortunately, it's not so practical. One issue with that is that we need the revenue to help operate the airport, make sure we're not using local tax dollars, be it sales tax or property tax, to operate the airport. Well, we've moved over to the close-in parking lot here at the airport, and we've got an electronic system that helps get people in and out of our lot. It's 24 hours a day, it's all electronic, it's just one of the other kiosks that exist here at the airport. But this lot, while very close in, has some challenges, and it's very congested, it's very tight for cars and ability to move around in, and we see an opportunity for the parking experience to be much better. We've also, though, seen an increase in demand for the paid parking, and I think a lot of that has to do with the arrival of Frontier Airlines a couple years ago, and a lot more locals are using the airport than maybe used to. We continue to encourage folks to do drop-off or have their friends drop them off, or take public transportation as a way to access the airport. That's one of our goals as well, is to let folks have good access to the airport through other means than just bringing their car to the airport and leaving it. The way this airport is positioned in the valley, and the fact that it is so close to the ski slopes, allows certain things to happen that just simply can't happen at any other facility in the world. I mean, the reality is you can fly into this airport and be skiing in a matter of minutes. And that close to the slopes access is just one of our unique things. It makes this airport very special. There's some challenges that go with that, as you might expect. One is that the snow that draws a great number of our visitors is the snow that lands on the airport from time to time as well. And so that can impact the flight schedules. Not as much as some people think, but it still impacts flights from time to time. The other thing has to do with how people get in and out of the airport, be it on ground transportation or by their car. And there's a lot of changes being talked about in the community about how the mass transit folks through RAFTA are doing a bus rapid transit or BRT program that's very exciting, and I think it's going to make access to the community a significant improvement. So we're trying to stay with RAFTA on what could that mean to the airport. How could we be more multimodal that allows folks to use public transportation in a more efficient, more comfortable, more timely way. Additionally, there's discussions about how the Aspen Airport Business Center might change, some of the issues with access across the street. All of those things have a direct impact on the airport. We're trying to stay with each one of those and work together with those partners to make sure that the access in and out of the airport, the access into the Aspen Area Business Center, and the bus changes that are coming all really work well for the customer and the community. Yeah, I think all of us, when we travel, we kind of look and see what we like about other terminal buildings, other airports, what makes those special and work well. And I think it's important that we continue to consider those ideas, how we can bring those to this airport and make the experience a more positive one. I think there's a trend, as we've all kind of witnessed, that with the electronic kiosks at the airline ticket counters, that space in terminals will probably get smaller over time. There's less need for it, and so the overall square footage as a percentage of a terminal need is going to change, and that area will get smaller. I think there's an opportunity, for example, to move that whole ticketing, baggage drop-off, all those kind of things closer. And if we build a parking structure or some kind of parking system out in front of the building, how folks can get those bags out of their car and give them to somebody else if they're checking their bags, and then very quickly get to security so that distance, that time is really short, and that it feels more comfortable and with less stress. The visitor is such an important component as well. I mean, the locals who use this airport, they're the ones that are pretty easy to get some thoughts from, and we're looking forward to that feedback. The visitor is a little more difficult, and so we'll be doing some surveys in the terminal building. We'll be asking those key questions. We've got some folks on our advisory committee who are not from our community that can help us balance the discussion and kind of bring some other ideas to the table. So our hope is that by the time we take all of these different concepts, have a chance to work through them, take the good ideas and put those in place, and those ideas that probably will be a few that just for whatever reason can't be implemented, but to kind of refine those in and to make sure that they're captured in our future vision of what this airport can and should be about, looking out into the future.